Watergate. In 1972, 5 operatives tied to President Richard Nixon's re-election campaign were caught breaking into the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate complex in Washington, D.C. What seemed like a simple burglary soon unraveled into a sweeping investigation that exposed widespread corruption, political espionage, and abuse of power within the Nixon administration. Journalists Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, along with a Senate committee, uncovered efforts to obstruct justice and hide hush money payments. Secret White House recordings later confirmed Nixon's direct involvement in the cover-up. Facing certain impeachment, Nixon resigned on August 8, 1974, becoming the first U.S. president to leave office in disgrace. The scandal sent top officials to prison, shattered public trust in government, and led to historic reforms in campaign finance, intelligence oversight, and executive accountability. Iran-Contra affairs. Between 1985 and 1987, the Reagan administration became embroiled in a secret and illegal operation that combined 2 controversial goals: selling arms to Iran, which was under a U.S. embargo, and using the profits to fund Contra rebels fighting the leftist Sandinista government in Nicaragua. Congress had explicitly banned such aid through the Boland Amendment, making the covert plan a direct violation of U.S. law. The scheme was managed by members of the National Security Council, including Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, and was hidden from both Congress and the public. When the operation was exposed in 1986, it sparked a major political scandal. Multiple investigations revealed a web of deceit, shredded documents, and attempts to protect senior officials. While President Ronald Reagan denied knowledge of the details, the controversy deeply damaged his administration's credibility and raised enduring questions about executive power and accountability. Clinton-Lewinsky. In 1998, President Bill Clinton became the center of one of the most infamous political scandals in modern American history after revelations of an affair with Monica Lewinsky, a 22-year-old White House intern. The relationship had taken place between 1995 and 1997, but it came to light during a separate sexual harassment lawsuit filed by Paula Jones. Under oath, Clinton denied having sexual relations with Lewinsky, a statement later proven false when physical evidence and Lewinsky's testimony emerged. Independent counsel Kenneth Starr expanded his ongoing Whitewater investigation to include the matter, uncovering evidence of perjury and obstruction of justice. The House of Representatives voted to impeach Clinton in December 1998, though the Senate acquitted him in early 1999. The scandal dominated media coverage, polarized the nation, and redefined the boundaries between personal morality, political judgment, and presidential accountability in the modern era. Iraq WMD Claims. In 2003, President George W. Bush's administration launched the invasion of Iraq on the premise that Saddam Hussein possessed weapons of mass destruction and posed an imminent threat to global security. U.S. officials, including Vice President Dick Cheney and Secretary of State Colin Powell, presented intelligence claiming Iraq had chemical, biological, and possibly nuclear weapons programs. However, after the invasion and Hussein's fall, exhaustive searches revealed no WMD stockpiles. Critics accused the administration of manipulating or exaggerating intelligence to justify a pre-planned war. The scandal sparked massive protests, divided Congress, and eroded international trust in U.S. leadership. As the conflict dragged on, causing hundreds of thousands of deaths and destabilizing the region, the war's justification became one of the most significant foreign policy controversies in modern American history, permanently damaging the credibility of U.S. intelligence and the Bush administration's legacy. NSA Leaks. The 2010s were defined by 2 explosive information leak scandals that reshaped politics and public trust. In 2013, intelligence contractor Edward Snowden exposed a vast network of NSA surveillance programs that secretly collected data from millions of phone calls, emails, and online activities, often targeting ordinary Americans. The disclosures revealed the unprecedented scale of government monitoring and ignited a global debate over privacy, security, and civil liberties. Just a few years later, in 2016, WikiLeaks, founded by Julian Assange, released tens of thousands of emails from the Democratic National Committee and Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman, John Podesta. The messages exposed internal party bias and private political maneuvering, intensifying distrust toward the Democratic establishment. Both Snowden's leaks and WikiLeaks releases forced the public to confront uncomfortable truths about power, secrecy, and the fragile balance between transparency and national security in the digital era. Russia collusion. The Russia collusion controversy began after the 2016 presidential election, when U.S. intelligence agencies determined that Russia had interfered through cyber attacks and document leaks targeting Democratic organizations. Investigators examined whether members of Donald Trump's campaign had coordinated with Russian officials or intermediaries during the election. In 2017, Special Counsel Robert Mueller was appointed to lead the inquiry, which lasted nearly 2 years. The investigation revealed extensive contacts between Trump campaign figures and Russians, resulting in indictments and convictions for several associates, including Paul Manafort, Michael Flynn, and Roger Stone, mostly for lying to investigators or unrelated financial crimes. However, Mueller's final report in 2019 concluded that while Russia had attempted to influence the election, no criminal conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Moscow was established. The report also examined possible obstruction of justice, leaving further action to Congress and the public record. Hush money scandal. The hush money scandal centers on payments made during the 2016 presidential election to silence allegations of affairs involving Donald Trump. Trump's personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, arranged a $130,000 payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels and a separate payment to former Playboy model Karen McDougal to prevent their stories from becoming public before Election Day. These payments were later investigated as potential campaign finance violations since they were made to influence the outcome of the election but not reported as campaign expenses. In 2018, Cohen pleaded guilty to multiple charges, including campaign finance crimes, and testified that he acted at the direction of Trump. The case resurfaced in 2023 when Trump became the first former U.S. president criminally indicted for falsifying business records related to the payments. The scandal intertwines personal misconduct, political deception, and the unprecedented legal challenges facing a former president. Capitol insurrection. On January 6, 2021, a violent mob stormed the U.S. Capitol in an attempt to block the certification of the 2020 presidential election results, which confirmed Joe Biden's victory over Donald Trump. The attack followed weeks of claims by Trump and his allies that the election had been stolen through widespread fraud. After a rally near the White House, where Trump urged supporters to fight like hell, thousands marched to the Capitol, breaching police barricades and forcing lawmakers to evacuate. The assault left multiple people dead, injured more than 140 officers, and caused extensive damage to the building. In response, the House of Representatives impeached Trump for incitement of insurrection, making him the first president impeached twice. Although the Senate later acquitted him, the event marked one of the darkest days in modern American democracy and led to hundreds of criminal prosecutions. Biden laptop. In 2019, a laptop allegedly belonging to Hunter Biden, son of then Vice President Joe Biden, was left at a Delaware repair shop and never retrieved. Copies of the hard drive were given to federal authorities and later circulated in the media, revealing emails, photos, and business records that fueled allegations of corruption and foreign influence. Critics claim the materials showed Hunter leveraging his family name in overseas business deals, while supporters argued the scandal was politically driven and exaggerated. Federal prosecutors launched a multi-year investigation, resulting in tax evasion and firearm-related charges against Hunter. In 2025, President Joe Biden issued a pardon, citing compassion and the desire to end a deeply personal legal ordeal. The decision reignited political debate, with opponents accusing the president of favoritism and defenders framing it as an act of parental mercy. Epstein Files. In 2025, the Trump administration, headed by Donald Trump, came under scrutiny for its management of the Epstein-related investigation files. After earlier campaign promises to release a so-called client list, the Department of Justice and Federal Bureau of Investigation released a memo on July 7th stating that no credible evidence had been found of a client list or blackmail of prominent individuals by Epstein. Despite these findings, Trump's supporters and the MAGA base expressed disappointment and anger, accusing the administration of backtracking on earlier transparency commitments. Meanwhile, Pam Bondi, Trump's attorney general, was challenged in the Senate over whether the files were being withheld or selectively released, with critics alleging interference or politicization in the process. Among the revelations, congressional committees released thousands of new documents in late 2025 showing calendar entries and potential meetings with Epstein involving prominent figures. Trump himself, in mid-2025, dismissed the inflation of the Epstein Files as a hoax and pointed the finger at his political adversaries for pushing the narrative.